Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Apartment Department, the podcast for multifamily marketers by multifamily marketers. I'm really excited for today's episode. Well, I'm always excited, but today I'm extra excited because we have a really special guest, Debbie Balaker. She is the Director of Marketing and Training at M. Shapiro Real Estate Group. And the reason that I'm so excited to talk to Debbie today is we met at AIM in 2023, and we immediately hit it off. We were sitting at a round table in one of the sessions, and we just started talking and trading notes. And we were fortunate enough, again, to spend time together at AIM 2024. And Debbie's just really a force to be reckoned with, and that is a compliment. And so Chris and I knew that we had to go ahead and have her on the show today. So with that, I am Ann Baum. I am the Director of Town Properties, the Director of Marketing at Town Properties, and Chris Johnson, my co-host, is a marketing leader at a firm in Dallas, Texas. And Debbie, why don't you, first of all, thank you for being with us today. Can you go ahead and just introduce yourself to everyone? Tell us a little bit about yourself and your career in multifamily.
Yeah, absolutely. And Chris, thank you both for having me on. I'm honored to be here. So thank you. I started my property management career about 22 years ago. I hate saying that because it ages me tremendously. But I started off right after school. I became a leasing agent and worked my way up. I worked for some really reputable management companies out in the Detroit market. But currently, I'm the Director of Marketing and Training, like you said, for M. Shapiro Real Estate Group. I really have a focus on lease-ups, new developments, and specialize in marketing and training in multifamily housing. I joined M. Shapiro about 2 years ago. We are the largest third-party management company for manufactured housing, but we also have a large apartment portfolio of over 8,000 units. A lot of them are luxury apartment communities. We have several lease-ups going on right now, so I'm absolutely busy. We have about 162 communities right now, and we're forecasting to be at about 200 by the end of the year.
Oh my gosh, that is insane. And I think that was part of the reason that I wanted to have you on the podcast, and, you know, why Chris and I wanted to have you as a guest is because I hadn't ever met anyone who was responsible for marketing and training for manufactured home communities. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started M. Shapiro, I had no manufactured housing community experience whatsoever. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I had a previous coworker that is our director of ops that brought me on board. And really, it's very similar. You have a lot of the same type of marketing, you have the same type of training. But the thing is manufactured housing, when we say the apartment industry is 10 years behind standard marketing, add another 10 years to manufactured housing. So it's just really behind. They were still doing, some print ads and some just really outdated marketing. So I was able to bring my experience from the apartment industry over to manufactured housing, and it's really helped elevate M. Shapiro. Not just myself, but my amazing team as well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And remind everyone, like, manufactured home communities, is that, am I thinking about kind of like mobile, like kind of prefab mobile homes?
Yeah, they are. I mean, people do, just like you say units and tenants are bad language, but, saying trailer parks are as well. But we do have some really nice manufactured home communities that we elevate and try to make as nice as possible.
You're doing this for lease or for buy?
Each community is a little bit different. We do offer rentals at some of our communities, and our goal is to convert them into homeowners. So, a lot of it is sometimes they're not ready to be homeowners, so they go into the rental, and then we're able to offer them a conversion program that we turn the renters using some rent credits into homeowners.
That's pretty amazing. So how many lease-ups do you have going on right now?
Oh boy. I have a couple that are at the end stage. I want to say they're done. We just hit 95%, but they're still there. I have 4 right now going on.
That's a lot.
Lease-ups in our industry are pretty fun because you can kind of experiment. You usually have a little bit more budget when you're doing a lease-up, so you can kind of experiment. Do you have any outside-the-box ideas you've been doing for your lease-ups?
I love that you said that, Chris, because, when we started Bayfront is in Orlando. It's one of our newer developments. It's the one that we just hit 95%. But when I was onboarded, they never heard of interactive site maps. So we implemented that, and we did a lot of SEO, worked with some SEO experts, brought them on board. And then we really went into geofencing. It's something that they've never done before. So I implemented some of those things that wasn't standardized, but now we're really utilizing then even some of our stabilized properties and use some really cool platforms too that helped us manage all of that.
What platforms were you using?
One is it's MOZ, and it's a SEO platform that analyzes your page. It provides additional keywords. It provides all of these recommendations, and then we have a digital marketing manager that helps implement some of those things. And then I would say one of my favorite platforms is Sprout Social. And it's a platform, it's similar to Hootsuite used to be, where you can manage all your social on there, but you have reputation management on there. And so when I have almost, 200 sites, that's 200 websites, 200 ILSs, any of that stuff that goes along with it, all those social pages, it manages in one platform, but it does instantly let us know if we get a review that comes in, and we can respond right away. And it tracks your KPIs with it too. So if you can set your goals of, I want to be at a 4-star rating, how many reviews does it take to get us to there? So it really gives us some cool tools.
That's really cool. We get that question a lot. Like, we preach to our communities a lot. Like, you have to get to a 4, we have to get to a 4. And we get that question, well, how many reviews is it going to take for me to get to a 4? And we're like, lots? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just go. You'll get there.
Yeah. So it gives you the opportunity to say, like, here's where we started. Here's our goal. And then you get reporting that's great. It tracks it not only on Google, but on Facebook and Yelp and some other ones too.
That's really cool. And I love Moz. I'm familiar with that that's been around for a long time. And I love that you're using products that aren't necessarily like multifamily products, but they're kind of just general SEO and reputation management and social media posting tools. That's exciting. That's something we talk a lot about, is like, what can we learn from other industries? We talked to a guest, and then they were talking about like using the financial industry for benchmarks. And then we talked to someone else who talked about using the technology industry for best benchmarks. And so I think there's kind of a trend right now of people looking outside the industry. So you're well in front of that in terms of the tools that you're using. I remember that we talked about geofencing too at AIM. Tell us more about your success with that and what that all encompasses.
Yeah, absolutely. Geofencing is sometimes it's hit or miss, right? Where it works extremely well in one market, and then it's a little bit more challenging, and you have to broaden your fence with some other ones. So, I think it's just really working with on-site team members to find out where those key locations are, because we can guess, right? Our corporate office is in Farmington, Michigan, and then I'm working with a community that's out in Orlando. I have an idea by Googling and looking at maps, but the on-site team members are really going to help you know where the hot restaurants are, where the great point of interest are. You're going to know where your large employers are, but they're going to also help you with the localized targeting. So we utilized apartment geofencing, like I said, and it was really successful in Orlando because of all the new developments that were happening there. So we geofenced our comps, the points of interest. And I just love that you can track how many clicks it had, how many views the commercials had, and then also how many people walked into your leasing office. You don't have the leads like you do in your CRMs, but you do know that it's actually hit them, and then they've walked into the community. So it's a new, if we look back into how we used to market, it's the new way to do outreach, right? It's the new brand awareness and the billboard signs that we no longer need to do because we're targeting them on their on their mobile devices and as they're watching Netflix and Hulu.
I agree. I looked at apartment geofence in my last company at my last firm. I do use geofencing heavily when I'm trying to brand or help a community out that needs a little bit of help and pull a lever. I wanted to go back to the interactive sitemaps because I'm going to add that. It's part of my roadmap for tech for 2025. And I love them. And I don't think it matters on product type. Have you tried it on the manufactured side or just in the apartments?
You know, Chris, we're trying to explore that option with the manufactured housing communities. A lot of them are already, I don't have a ton of vacancy in them. And it's a little bit harder to map out the homes and how it integrates with the system. So, when you have Yardi and it integrates with the ingrain map, it's a lot easier to do that. I haven't been able to do it yet, but it is on the horizon. I'm hoping to do it at one of our large communities that is really, struggling with some occupancy that we just took this community over. So we have the marketing budget to do so. So it's something we're looking into. I just haven't found the interaction with, we use Rent Manager for our PMS, the integration just yet, but I want to.
I mean, I think it's just such a powerful tool, and you're letting our prospects visualize where that apartment is, and they can go rent without ever talking to you if they wanted to, because your website's giving them the info. Then you're using the ingrained sitemap, which has so many cool features that integrate with all of our backend systems, and it's really neat the way that they lay it out and how easy they make it to use as a leasing tool.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And, what's funny is you had mentioned, when you join a company and you have the support where it's like, hey, do what you need to do. And I really did have that. I have that with M. Shapiro, where they're letting us try things that just maybe isn't industry standard. And it's not industry standard on the MH side, and hoping to get it there and bring them to the next level. But just it's hard sometimes when you're the first to do it to find those integrations. So working with it, I have some great reps with Ingrain. So, seeing what we can do.
Well, the technology's there. And it reminds me a little bit about when I was in storage. It was the same kind of thing. Storage was behind apartments as well. And just working with the APIs, trying to get the data, trying to give that same experience that we're trying to feed our apartment prospects in the storage industry is the same as what you're dealing with now with the manufactured.
Yeah. Did you guys find, just a question, because I know you're using it too, did you find when you first wanted to implement the interactive sitemaps that you had some challenges with leadership? Because they're like, whoa, we don't want everyone to see our vacancy. Like that's a bad thing. There was a little bit of a concern at first.
No, I haven't had any pushback at all on the tech stacks that I'm bringing. And I have some really fun things planned over the next, 8 months as I build it kind of the way that I think will give us the best foot forward for our product type. But no, there hasn't been any pushback. In fact, they're excited to have that technology to be able to do something different.
Yeah, it was just more of like they were a little scared at first, and it's really taken our experience online to the next level.
I think you can limit it too. And I have a lot of my stuff is garden. And so when you have garden, you can kind of limit what you're showing anyway. I mean, I think we can kind of get over that hurdle pretty easily.
I think it's just such a neat tool that not very many people in multifamily are embracing, which means it's a huge opportunity, right? Like the tracking's there, the technology's there. People just have to start embracing it. Are you using like streaming ads too?
Yeah, we are. With apartment geofencing, they provide streaming ads included with your package. So I added that additional package to our standard one. And I actually am doing geofencing at some of our MH communities too. That was a little bit more challenging because, some of them I don't have clubhouses or leasing offices. Someone works out of their home and then they need them at the vacant home or the home that they're looking to sell. So a lot of times I have to geofence that whole community which it shows that I have a whole lot of walk-ins. But you can see that the brand is getting out there, and in the awareness of our homes are as well.
How did TV work? Because I'm always interested in TV and the interaction with it, especially on these streaming ads. Are you finding that you're having success with people seeing your ads on the streaming services?
Yeah, I've actually had a couple people say that we saw you on Hulu or actually YouTube too, because it feeds through some of the YouTube channels or feeds through there too. So we're hearing it from our prospects. So, and I can also see I love the reporting on the back end because it'll tell you how many commercials were viewed and, what percentage of those were from the streaming services versus the specific ads.
That's pretty amazing. TV used to be so expensive and now it's affordable.
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah. I know the barrier to entry, even Hulu has its own self-serve ad platform now. I think it's like $500 a month that you can go and you can basically run your own ads through Hulu. So the accessibility for this stuff now is it's mind-blowing. I never ran real TV ads, but I've heard that they're very expensive.
Yeah. The one thing that I am really excited to get into, and I'm working with my teams on right now, is just really getting in front of TikTok. It's one platform that we're not there yet, but just watching where the trend is with that and how people are searching on there more than they are on Google and some other things. It's just, I think that's going to be our next one. If I had to make a prediction, I'm like, that's going to be the next platform that we need to get ahead of.
That you need to be in. And we talked with Austin at Rent. They have TikTok ad capabilities. When we talked with Eden from Flair, we were talking about a lot about that too. It's just searcher behavior is changing and expectations. People want things served up to them now. TikTok, their algorithm is unbelievable and you can train it and then it starts serving things to you and it's it knows who you are. And you're exactly right. How do we as marketers for multifamily use that platform? What are you thinking? Are you going to hire someone on your team to be the TikTok person? Or are you going to leave it in the hands of the communities? What are you thinking from a structure standpoint?
Yeah, that's the part we're working on. I have a couple of team members that have taken it on themselves and they're doing it. And, I've always believed that social needs to be social. So with that said, it needs to be in that specific community and marketed there. And that's a little bit challenging when we're all over the United States. So my goal is to train the team members and how to give that community feel on their page. But as far as ads go, specifically, the ads would be ran out of the marketing department. And it would be, information about the community and our standard ads that we would see on our streaming services.
That one's been one that's been hard to crack, just to figure out how you can get the content to be fresh enough to make it worth it on TikTok. It's a good platform. It's just, how do you make it engaging enough where they're not going to swipe? I mean, we don't, it's just a hard platform, I think, to crack. Facebook was easy. You just put up a picture, right? I mean, it wasn't, and we all knew we could do it and fit our industry so well, but I just still trying to figure out how TikTok is going to, I know it can be game changing because of the search patterns, but I don't know how we as marketers in the apartment industry can take advantage of it unless we get lucky and we have an influencer on accident at one of our communities that just happens to be filming it there and it goes viral and we take advantage of that. Because creating the content that's fresh on TikTok without being overboard, especially if it's a brand. I mean, we've had this discussion a lot, but you can only show a pool so many times over and over again. So I don't know. It's something that go ahead.
You have 3 seconds to capture their attention.
I know. The old adage is goldfish have a longer attention span than humans these days, and goldfish is 7 seconds. So pretty amazing to figure it out. And that's why it's been fun for me right now, because I'm going to be in the middle of doing websites and thinking about what we want to do on those sites to be a little bit different. And, with lease-ups and things like that you're doing, it's probably something you think about all the time. How are you going to attract? I had a lease-up in Orlando. It's a very competitive market. I stabilized in Orlando. So just in general, what are you going to do to be different out there? And that's what I'm looking at. How can we be different from every other provider? We only get one chance, and people's attention spans, you have to catch them. You have to give them the info they want. And so I don't know. I'm just thinking that's been on my mind a lot lately, is how are we going to change as an industry to be more e-commerce, to be more customized?
Yeah.
Debbie, I've been doing this not as long as you, but almost. When PPC first came out, if you remember, we had landing pages to those ads. And we were literally feeding exactly what we were advertising on a landing, but we weren't taking them to the full web page. We would try to convert on the full web page, but we tracked it on a landing page. And I think we've just gotten away from it. Technology has changed and websites got better. But how do we get back to that customizable feeling? I mean, where you search something and then you land on what you are searching for. That's where that's where I want to be headed. More e-commerce, less doing what everybody else is doing.
Thinking about what you said, Chris, is our industry, we use so many, how do I say it, like packaged websites, or how do you stay different? And that's what I'm always looking at. And it's not just doing a market study and finding out what your comps is. It's looking at their digital assets and saying, how do I look different than this place? And how do I say it's not a pool and it's an experience? And, what's going to make you completely different? And, we're probably the only industry that puts all of your comps in an ILS to search for apartments. It's just crazy, and how some of our things in our industry are different than, you say, like e-commerce and some other different platforms.
It's so true. I don't know, you may not know this about me, but I am moving away from ILSs when I can. Just in general, and putting the money in other places when I can. There are ILSs I like. I like the paid per lease programs because you're getting the instant ROI. But that's something I'm thinking about too, because we do know that Google works still. And so why wouldn't we put more money into something that we can control and have a lot of control over, and control the whole experience? Because then they come to where we want them to land, and we can craft the ads the way we want them to craft and all of the things. So that's something that I think we should think about more too as an industry, is just, I don't think anybody's doing it wrong. I don't think there's one right way to do it. I will say, from 2007, my first AIM conference, and 2024, when I came this time, our tech stacks have gotten so much better. Our API connections have gotten so much better. We don't have to, have 9 different providers. We can use a couple of providers and instead of 9 or 10 or whatever we were using back in the day. And so I do think our technology is catching up, and AI is becoming such an important piece of what we're doing. And that's the next thing, is how are we going to think about marketing for the AI generation, where one of these days Google is going to start feeding up results in their AI that talk about living and homes and all of the things. So, it'll be interesting to see how we have to change for that too. That's why marketing is so fun in our space.
It is. You have to stay innovative and on top of it, and always learning and what's changing, and how do you stay above it. I couldn't agree with you more. And I think, the more research that I do in regards to AI and stuff is it's not just Google anymore. We have to make sure that Bing's updated and all those other platforms to help with that.
Yeah, Bing's a player because of ChatGPT, but I don't know. Ann and I talk about this a lot, just going back to like landing page stuff, but long tail keywords, that was like a thing. And then it went back to short, and then it was like, now it's back to long. And I think Eden gave us some like crazy stat that 75% of our searches today, like of every search that's happening is new, right? Like stuff that has never been searched before, like a keyword set that has never been searched before. So like people are still out there using it and kind of trying to figure out, I guess, new stuff that's out there. I'm not really sure how that's even happening in today's world, but I don't know. We have to stay on top of it. And that's why I think lease-ups are fun, because I think lease-ups help you do that because it's so competitive. You have to fill it, right? I mean, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, like you are being measured. I think when we talk about being different too, like you, Chris, and Debbie, I'll tell you, like, I think this is probably the fourth podcast that I've mentioned this, but I don't even care. So like at AIM, there was a lot about like brand and brand experience and customer experience. And so I mentioned to you guys that we went and did site visits today. And honestly, like, I am now convinced that like the way that we are different in marketing our communities is first to like really understand our individual communities and what they are offering to our prospects, and not pretending that there's something that they're not, but understanding their place in the market, and then making sure that the experience that we're giving to prospects on site and online are cohesive and they tell the story. Not every property is a fit for every person, but every property is unique and special. It might need a little polishing or, whatever, but like that, I am convinced that that's our way to be different is to go back to each of our properties and treat them as the individual entities that they are, and start marketing from that standpoint. So what does that mean? I don't know. Like, that was just a lot of words, but I don't know. I'm really,
I agree.
that's,
yeah. One thing that I started doing, especially coming on and we've taken on a lot of new communities, so I have the experience a little bit different than most, where a third party, we bring on new communities every day, right? So we're bringing on a new community and then we have to reposition it or remarket it. I do brand workshops with our on-site managers in the regionals and really try to get a good understanding, especially with our lease-ups. So we do brand workshops where we're trying to find the voice, the color schemes, the logos, like all that stuff gets developed in the beginning, where we're carrying on that voice not only on our website, but our social media, our logo, all that stuff gets carried through. But branding is so crucial. And every market, not every market is extremely competitive, but we're in where we're located. Some of them are, and that I think helped us a little bit.
I love that. Are you leading, like, what members of your marketing team are involved in that process?
Sure. When we start the process, I have two marketing managers. And both of them attend. One's the graphic designer, and he also does our coordinating. And then the second one is our marketing manager that's going to help keep this branding consistent across the board and help teach the team members. But I think it is really important to get the on-site team members involved. So if you have a long-term manager or someone that's being hired on to bring this, when you bring them to the conversation, they're going to carry it out for you.
Okay. Yeah, we've been thinking about that a lot lately in terms of finding the brand. At one of the properties today, we were talking about that, like they were talking about doing models and, how involved should marketing be. We're typically not involved in kind of models and interior design, but we were like, we should be because of the brand, but like it's a team effort. It's the on-site person. So I love to hear that you're doing that. That's something we should adopt. And then the other thing, this is the other thing I've been thinking about. So I'll ask you, how do you bring the M. Shapiro brand into the individual communities? Like, what is the marriage of those two brands?
That's a great question. So hopping back to your models, when I have the opportunity to decorate the models, it's a little bit, one of my hobbies is a marketing director. I get to decorate some of the models, but if I'm helping setting them up or working with interior decorating, I try to match. Doesn't have to look exactly like it. Match the models to your branding, because when your digital assets, videos, all that stuff, that's going to go ahead and match that too. So it's a little tip. As far as the M. Shapiro, on the MH side, all of our logos are consistent across the board, but we don't use the M. Shapiro name when we're doing it because we're managing it for those owners. We treat it like we own it. I mean, I couldn't even tell you what we own versus what we manage, because we don't do anything different unless we're working with that client and we have very strict budgets, but we try to manage it. We have the same SOP everywhere. We have the same consistent procedures, because we wouldn't be able to manage this many communities across the board if we didn't have that type of consistency. But we don't marry the brands. So we manage it professionally for our clients, but we we do have consistent logos. So if we have a lot of communities in one area, you can tell that they're branded similar. But
I say it sounds like you focus more on the community brand and not really then, because I've been thinking about like, well, do we bring in values or some other things of town into some of these communities to, but it sounds like you're doing individual communities. So that's interesting. So that's a process I have to think about a little bit more.
Well, I started bringing in our property management company into our properties because our residents had no idea. So that was one of the first things I implemented, was making sure they knew who the property manager was, because we care and we do such a good job at our communities. I thought it was important, because then you start building that brand and people understand that you are a little bit different.
yeah, I could see both sides of it. I actually worked for another company that it was all the communities were named that. So it's consistent across every community. It was third party in some of them. So I don't think it's a right answer or a wrong one. I think sometimes we manage for the bank and we might not hold on to that community very long. So that might be, I know that's one of the factors in it as well.
No, that makes sense. I feel like we could talk about brand for ever and ever and ever. It's such a vast topic. And I feel like it's one of those things that people are talking about, but like, I don't know, there's still so much more to go in the multifamily industry. So you talked about TikTok, like, do you have anything else on the horizon for 2025? Any trends that you're really watching or interested in? We're coming into budget season, so I know a lot of people are thinking about this.
Yeah, I think like we all heard at AIM is just AI and machine learning is so important to stay innovative on. So I'm embracing it. I'm getting certified. Actually, I have one, but I keep learning a little bit more. We did implement TED IQ with Yardi, and it's been amazing with having that AI assisted leasing agent 24/7 and watching those conversion ratios and how we're able to capture a lead, and it's every day it's getting better. It's bilingual now. It's answering more in-depth questions. It's doing a great job. So I would say that's where I'm really watching and emerging myself in.
Okay. No, that sounds awesome. Yeah, AI is such a big... Chris, you keep talking about AI too, and just like, what does the future of this look like and how can we embrace it more and more? So
I love it. There's so many good tools out there now. It just has to fit for your portfolio, but they have collection tools, they have renewal tools. We're just getting so much smarter about what we're doing. And what I love about AI is not only is it speed to lead, but AI doesn't have to take a lunch break. AI could talk to 10,000 people at once in the same conversation, different conversation, whatever it is. And so that's why it's so fascinating to see how we can use it to our advantage. That is my workflow for 2025, or my roadmap is definitely figuring out what my AI tool is going to be. And I'm starting to explore that now because it'll take some time to kind of suss it out after we get new websites and some other fun stuff. The other big one that I'm working on now for 2025 is our feedback tools.
100%. And that's probably one of my biggest KPIs is our reputation management. I measure it. We set goals with it just as much. It's just as important to me as our occupancy goals are.
Reputation management is so important, and it drives leasing. It's what makes you different, and make you stand out to your competitors. I mean, I have a couple communities now. It's no secret. We're under 3 and we need to get them up, because we're going to be losing prospects as they come and look at us. We consume just like any other prospect consumes. And we look at reviews and we look at what's going on. We want to make sure we're going to feel good about our decision, especially for housing, where you're spending most of your paycheck.
Yeah, at a minimum of a year commitment. And that is the first thing that we do when we take over a property. And we had a beast of one that we just took over. It went through 2 management companies within the last 2 years. Actually, I think year and a half. Reputation was 2 point almost 3, and now we're up to at least a 4.8 I think 4.1 last time I checked. But it is something so important. I wish everybody could take that with them is that needs to be a KPI. That needs to be just as important as your occupancy. You will lose someone before they even look if you have a bad reputation and you're not handling it appropriately.
Imagine how many leads you're losing that you don't even get a chance to talk to.
You can't compete on price too. Like if you have a low score, you might get prospects, but you have to have your price has to be less than the competition just to get people in the door. I mean, because we use it the same. We look at reputation score on a monthly basis for all of our properties with our RVPs. And a lot of times when we have a property that's struggling, we'll go across the line and we'll say, look, you're at like a 3.5 or something, like,
Yeah.
and your rents are above comps. Like there's no, of course you're not converting. It always tells a story. It always fits into the story perfectly of like, and this is why you're having problems at your property.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I agree. That's neat to hear that it's like one of your most important KPIs. I've talked about this before. Like we didn't do a good job previously of talking about how important it was. So we were like, it's important, get your reputation, get your review score up to a 4, but we didn't talk about how detrimental it was to the property from the traffic, from a rent price standpoint, from a conversion rate standpoint. We weren't saying those words out loud. And now that we've gotten stronger in that stance, we've really been able to gain traction in having people understand how important it is. Debbie, is there anything else that you had kind of in your mind that you wanted to talk about?
No, I think that's it. I mean, this has been a really cool conversation. I've appreciated it, and it's been fun talking to you guys.
Yeah, this was really fun. I love, in my head, I was like, we're going to learn so much stuff. Like, for some reason, I had in my head about, like, manufactured home. Like, I don't know why, but I was, like, on that idea. And true to form, the conversation took such a great direction, talking about technology and KPIs and being different. Debbie, thank you so much for joining us. I wish we had 5 million hours to talk to you, because I feel like around every corner, we're just getting more and more information about all the wonderful things you're doing. And, it's great to be able to align with people that think differently and are always trying new things and love focusing on KPIs and data. And so we can't thank you enough for being on the show. I want to thank our producer, Carlos, because he makes us sound good. Thank you, everyone. And until the next episode, this has been the Apartment Department. Thank you so much.